You're listening to Canned Peaches from KBIA. I'm Nina Mukherjee Firstanaw. We're trekking through farms, forests, and faraway kitchens, exploring 5 ingredients. Come with us to discover how communities locally and globally are intertwined through food. The past year has been rough for peaches. People are driving for hours in search of fresh ones. In our namesake episode, Canned Peaches, we're going to find how canned peaches connect people through a complex food web that crosses time and space. Canning is a big part of this story, but it's best if we started with the fruit itself. So I have with me producer Lauren Hines Acosta. She reported on this episode.
Thanks for inviting me to the studio, Nina.
Good to talk with you, Lauren. So where did peaches get their start?
Peaches are actually from China. Over time, they spread through Asia and then the Mediterranean and onto Europe. Peaches didn't come to the Americas until the Spanish took them to the New World in the 1600s. Today, the major suppliers are China, Italy, Spain, and the U.S.
Right, so we even have peaches in the Midwest. And we wanted to try some, so producers Janet Saidi and Alex Cox went with me to see a locally famous farm called Peachtree Farm. It's in Boonville, Missouri, run by Judy and Bruce Arnett. They first showed us a historic cabin located on their property.
So you can step inside and take a look. Let's see.
So, the gentleman just arrived wanting peaches. Why is there such a huge demand for peaches?
That is a good question. We're a little bit different than a lot of orchards. If you go to a lot of orchard markets, you'll find that they have picked their peaches. They're back in the cooler. We don't do that. We actually pick our peaches ripe and sell them without putting them in a cooler. And so people really love the peaches because of that reason, because we pick them ripe.
What is someone's typical reaction when they bite into one of your peaches?
Oh, it's like lean over. They're not expecting all the juice that's coming out. We had this little old lady. She used to come every year, and I haven't seen her for a while, but she would come, and her husband said nobody can eat in her car, but she'll take her hat and put it under her so she can eat on the way home. I thought that was sweet. So they're very juicy.
We wanted to test that juicy theory, so Judy drove us over to the orchard from the cabin.
Oh, look at the trees. Well, there is something quite serene about a peach orchard.
Yeah.
Just
It can, and when you're out and picking with somebody, and just visiting, it's nice. There's a lot of trees.
you have a busy summer with this going on.
It is busy. It is busy. And, it's an interesting life, I will say that. It's,
You think?
what'd you say?
Every single variety that we have tastes different than the variety before it or after it. So, after a while, you doing long enough, you can tell what it is just by the taste of it or the look of it. But they're all a little different. They all have a little different acidity. They have different sugar content. Every variety is different than the variety after it.
Do you have a favorite?
Cresthaven probably would be my favorite, and they're really close. I picked about a half a box yesterday. So within 4 or 5 days, I'll be in the Cresthavens all the way. And they are referred to as the best peach that money can buy, not because we sell them, just because of the variety that they are. They've been on a tree a long time, and they've collected a lot of complex sugars from the plant or the tree, and so they're really top of the line quality peach. So
I really want to buy a thing of peaches. So can I do it when I get back up here?
I can put some together for you if you would like.
I would love
Huh?
What time do they show up at the farmer's market tomorrow?
if you
There are some people that.
you really need to experience that.
Oh yeah, that. No, it's in Columbia Farmers Market. Yeah.
Maybe we should go.
If you have not experienced it, believe me, you need to. Yeah.
It's fun.
Peaches?
You just need to be there.
Yeah.
You'll understand.
Well, when you say you have to experience it.
It's a life of its own. You almost can't describe it. If you go, you'll know what I'm talking about. Just to show up. Show up in the morning about 8 o'clock, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And you won't be sorry you did, because it's a sight that you've never seen before. So it's kind of interesting. It's fun.
I heard you got to try one of their peaches. What was it like?
Well, let's just put it this way. I had to lean quite far to avoid dripping peach juice on my clothes. To me, those peaches smelled like summer. In one bite, you take a deep whiff and you know it's summer.
And it seems Judy and Bruce have had to deal with some frost problems as well.
Well, the peaches need to be hot. Missouri's hot days are perfect for them, but peaches just are not built for the amount of rain and frost we got this year. Many southern and midwestern states are losing their peaches to frost. Georgia's main crop isn't actually peaches, but the state did lose 90% of its peach crop this year to frost, according to horticulturalists at the University of Georgia.
Oh, wow. So where are people getting their peaches?
Well, peaches will still be in grocery stores, but some people drive hours to markets to get fresh ones. Our producer, Janet Saidi, visited Columbia's Farmers Market. She found Peachtree Farm always has a long line, with people coming from Illinois, Texas, and other parts of Missouri.
Hi, do you all want to tell me why you're getting peaches in line? I'm Janet from Public Radio.
Oh yeah, for sure. So do you want to
Can I
talk
get your
or?
name?
My name is Jacqueline Sumida, and we woke up at like 7 this morning because we really wanted some peaches. My friend here is from southern Missouri, and all the peaches out there got wiped out this year, so we wanted to give the Columbia peaches a try.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
How did you know to do that?
She's really into the farmers market and stuff, and we had been hearing about the peaches a lot, so it was just a good chance to come over, and we like going to the farmers market anyways, so it's just a good opportunity overall.
What do you like about the farmer's market?
There's a lot of really fresh fruit. I'm originally from the Chicago suburbs where there's not a lot of fresh fruit around, or you have to drive about 2 hours south to get anywhere close to it. So it's nice to have some fresh fruit around for like a low cost, and you're supporting local farms and vendors, which is always good.
That's a really big thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it looks like your peach dream that you woke up with this morning is going to come true.
Oh yeah.
Place in line.
We're lucky, and I had to run to the bank to go get cash too, so.
Yay, you're gonna make it.
I think so.
In the near future.
I think so.
What are you all doing here? We're doing a food podcast.
Okay.
This light cover story, but it's about food.
Okay.
We're looking at how food connects us through 5 ingredients, and one of them is peaches.
Okay.
So is this a regular thing for you to get here to get peaches?
Yeah, we come here every Saturday to get peaches, and are willing to wait in the line for about 150 people deep today. And, we just eat them. Sometimes we freeze them. Sometimes we make pies. And it's really a hallmark of summer flavors for us and our family.
That's nice. Why are you willing to wait in line?
Because of the quality of the peaches, because we like to support the farmers. And it's nice to be with the community as we all gather to try and eat peaches.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So the line in some ways maybe is a bonus and not such a bad thing, like being with a whole bunch of people getting peaches and getting the same thing?
Yeah, I think one of the things I love about the farmers market is that it brings people together, and it's a seasonal rhythm, and part of the rhythm is waiting in line for peaches in July and August.
You're listening to Canned Peaches, and we're excited to introduce you to our sponsor, Greenleaf Solar, the local solar installation company. Greenleaf Solar is your trusted partner in the quest to lower your carbon footprint and trim those electrical expenses, catering to both residents and businesses. The best part, they offer complimentary consultations and a 10-year done right guarantee on all installs. To embark on the journey towards a cleaner, more affordable energy future, Google Greenleaf Solar. Let Greenleaf Solar guide you in making a meaningful impact today.
Let's take a moment to reflect how pervasive food is in our cultures. The image of food, in this case, peaches, evokes more than taste. It gives insight to history, place, and identity. And literature often shows how connected food can be to all those and more. Let's listen to an excerpt. James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. It was quite a large hole, the sort of thing an animal about the size of a fox might have made. James knelt down in front of it and poked his head and shoulders inside. He crawled in. He kept on crawling. This isn't a hole, he thought excitedly. It's a tunnel. The tunnel was damp and murky, and all around him there was a curious bittersweet smell of fresh peach. The floor was soggy under his knees, the walls were wet and sticky, and peach juice was dripping from the ceiling. James opened his mouth and caught some of it on his tongue. It tasted delicious. He was crawling uphill now, as though the tunnel were leading straight towards the very center of the gigantic fruit. Every few seconds he paused and took a bite out of the wall. The peach flesh was sweet and juicy and marvelously refreshing. So, okay, now that we know a bit about peaches and the fact that they're worth waiting in line for, I think it's time to shift gears. Lauren, what can you tell me about canned peaches?
Well, to start, preservation methods have been around a long time. In North America, Native Americans use methods like drying and grinding food based on their traditions and ecosystem. But canning really emerged to feed soldiers fighting abroad. In France, Napoleon even offered a cash prize in 1795 to anyone who could improve food preservation to feed his army.
Right, and we see canned goods as a big part of military rations in World War I. Canned peaches were a favorite, according to the Library of Congress. They were part of civilian life, and unlike canned meat, peaches reminded soldiers of home.
Yes, exactly. I talked with food historian Anna Zeta. She wrote a book called Canned: The Rise and Fall of Consumer Confidence in the American Food Industry. She argues that canned food became more popular because canning industry leaders wanted to build confidence in their products. So they used scientific expertise and collaborations with public institutions.
What do you mean by that?
Well, at first, commercially canned food was unfamiliar to many Americans. People didn't know where the food in these opaque tin containers came from. But in the early 20th century, the canning industry really tried to earn people's trust. They looked to outside experts, like public health departments, peer food regulations, economists, agricultural, and other sciences. They wanted an external stamp of approval. Then, with the Great Depression, consumers had begun to embrace these canned foods. Fast forward to after World War II, grocery store shelves were stocked with commercially canned foods. Anna told me that from there came other packaged and processed foods, and many use the canning industry's methods. Anna says that's what's led to our current highly processed food system today.
So how did we get to canning today? What does it look like now?
Well, I talked with Claire Schmidt. She's a folklorist from Missouri Valley College. Claire pointed out that people tend to return to canning when things get scary. We saw this when canning got big during the 2008 recession, and we saw it during the pandemic in 2020. I talked with Claire in July a little bit about that and what else canning tells us.
I think we see also in the prepping sort of subcultures in the United States, whatever different prepper families or groups or online communities are preparing for, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear of governments, or fear of war, or fear of any number of things. And so I think canning is a way of taking that fear, however logical it may or may not be, and managing that anxiety through labor as well. So I think different people can for different reasons, but I think people get similar satisfaction out of it. Whether it's the auditory joy of hearing the jar pop, or going down in the basement and looking at all the colors and just the sheer quantity or contrast of what you've accomplished.
I was wondering if you could go into kind of like, what does modern canning look like today and why is it here?
That's a really interesting question. I think people can when people can for a lot of reasons. And so I think canning is a little bit about time travel, in terms of food and time travel. But then I think it's also about time travel in terms of memory, and our memory of other people. So when you can things seasonally, you might only smell that smell once or twice a year, and it's always at the same time of year. And so that smell takes you back to the last time you did it, or the first time you did it, and the person who showed you that trick with the knife, or called the peach skin water peach melba. And you're like, oh, now I understand peach melba. Like, so I think it allows us to go back and be with people that we can't be with anymore. And so, like, I have a grandmother who, some of my earliest memories of her are canning field corn, which is, like, most people don't eat field corn because it doesn't taste good. But she did, and she would talk about peaches because she was born in Missouri, even though we were all in Wisconsin. And so, she is on hospice now, so I can't see her, I can't talk to her. But when I do these things, I'm back with her a little bit. So I think canning brings us back to people. And so I think there's this really tempting idea of self-reliance and independence that comes with canning your own peaches. Like, I did that. But people touched those peaches so many times before you touched them. There was so much invisible labor that goes into it. And we spend so little of our total income on food in the United States compared to other countries, that it's very easy to take food for granted.
Wow, what an amazing history of canning and family and labor and food, all in a can of peaches. So we've tried to follow how these foods get from our farms to our kitchens, but it can be easy to skip or forget what happens in the middle and how that connects so many people.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that until diving into canned peaches. It's like one big food web.
So I thought it'd be good if we visited a cannery. The team and I went to the Kansas City Canning Company in August, which sells lovely vanilla bourbon peach preserves. Let me just say that more slowly so you understand what I just said. Vanilla bourbon peach preserves. It's run by Tim Toohey. He gave us a tour, and we got to see how his canned goods were made. So I was really intrigued because you've canned before. You grew up canning. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I grew up in New Jersey, and that's why I talk like this. It sounds like I got peanut butter in my mouth sometimes. But my dad and our neighbors both had little gardens in the backyard. My neighbors, Joan and Frank, were first generation Italian. And at the end of each growing season, it was mostly tomatoes. We would do canning, but it was mostly tomatoes back then. And fast forward, multiple lives since then, but I was a teacher in New York. I ended up getting laid off after the 2008 crash, and I went to culinary school. I went to culinary school in New York at the Institute of Culinary Education. Eventually moved out here and I wanted to start my own business, and I saw a niche in specialty foods, and we started putting stuff in jars. And that was going on 9 years ago. So what we do, we try to, the main goal is to reduce as much food waste as possible. And, with our limited capacity, we do our best to do exactly that.
Okay, so I have several questions.
Please.
So when you were canning as a child, what about that process really got your imagination or made you, because you've stuck with it many years now. So what brought you back to canning specifically?
There's a nostalgia to it. It's something that I think fondly of, and that process. And when I talked to, it was Lauren, right? Mm-hmm. When I talked to Lauren about it, that was one of the cool aspects about what we do, is that often you'll have people come up and say, I used to can with my grandma, or I used to do this with that, so and so back on their farm somewhere. And there's a connection to the past that people can actually identify with, because it has that nostalgia to it. I think fondly about spending time in the garden with my dad and picking the tomatoes, and spending time with Joan and Frank across the street, and really, it's quality time doing activities and
with the community.
Yes.
Sounds like
yes.
As connected with nostalgia of the work, it was the people you were working with.
Yeah, exactly, and quality time with those people. Yeah.
After Nina and the team saw how the food was canned, Tim took them outside to his makeshift warehouse that felt like a large shipping container. Much of the floor was cluttered with orders.
So can you tell me about where we're standing right now?
This is our finished product. Again, I use the term lightly, warehouse. But this one, we have some protection from the heat and the sun. It doesn't get too hot in the summer, and it doesn't freeze in the winter. And I'm actually standing on our shipping and receiving table. So all of the boxes and shipments that go all over the country all come out of here.
So each of these jars are just so beautiful. I mean, I'm looking at the colors and the shapes and the textures that I can't feel them, but I feel like I can. When you mention sustainable use of foods, what I was thinking of, it just connected me to when you mentioned community before, because I feel like that is what sustains us, right? Not only what we're eating, but the ways we produce it, and your memories around community when you were young. Feels like that's something you're trying to pass on to me.
And I think the extension of that is being transplant to the Midwest. It's kind of an effort for me to build my own community of a chosen family, and just like we used to, we would pick the tomatoes and everything and do everything from top to bottom at home back in the day. But now, I work with the farmers. Like yesterday, Mike Pearl, one of the farmers that we work with the most, he stopped by to drop off a bunch of heirloom tomatoes so we can make bruschetta, and then he'll be back through at the end of the week. We say hi to each other at the market every weekend, and these relationships are what sustains us. And he's a significant example too. Mike Pearl he owns Pearl Family Farms in Parkville, which is a stone's throw away, and it's a century farm. From the 1890s, I want to say, but it's African American owned. It's black owned, so it's been in his family. It's his legacy, and he likes to talk about how it's his legacy, which is amazing. But the thought of having a family owned, privately owned black farm a stone's throw away, and being able to work with him it connects us to some sort of history. It's kind of cool.
So it seems canning also touches on eliminating food waste and getting food back to people.
I really liked how he used food to build a community for himself and also tackle some food waste issues.
Yeah, I never really thought about canning as kind of eliminating food waste, but I guess it makes it last longer. So that's really interesting. So, where are we going next?
Judy from Peach Tree Farm gave me a wonderful peach cobbler recipe.
But if you take a cup of flour, a cup of sugar, a cup of milk, and a tablespoon of baking powder, and you whisk it up till it's mixed really well, and you pour your peaches with juice in the bottom of your 9x13 pan, and you pour this over the top, it bakes up just like a nice little cakey cobbler, not the pie crust cobbler. And then when I get it out of the oven, I sprinkle cinnamon and sugar over the top. And it's nice because when you have company coming, like kind of unexpectedly, you can quickly whip that up and you've got a peach dessert that's really easy and really delicious.
So I thought we could revisit when we made it in my kitchen as our final stop. Cassandra Laughlin is the co-founder of Goodness Gracious Food Cooperative in Georgia. She was visiting me to learn more about journalism and help me cook the cobbler.
Cassandra, yes, can you help me make Judy's recipe in my kitchen? I would love to help you.
All right. You see what happens when you deal with peaches firmly, they get a little mushy. However,
How do you two think food connects people?
well, you see us right here in my kitchen connecting very well over flour, sugar, butter, and baking soda powder. Anything else?
Yeah, you can't be angry and eat at the same time. You ever seen anyone argue over breakfast? Eating waffle? It's hard to do because you're happy.
Awesome.
Use her quote. Oh my goodness. So, there's this a thing where, they say if you want to get to know someone, you sit at their table. But I always say you sit in their kitchen, because that's when you really see how things get done in their world and how they feel about everything. So I think that's true here too.
Make it loud.
Looks cakey. That's really good.
It's delicious. It's very delicious.
I think even though we thought that was too much sugar,
It's enough.
it is just right. Oh my gosh.
What does it taste like?
Like summer in a bite.
Yeah. Warm, gooey goodness.
Canning has a deep history, which reveals how we're connected through a complex food web. But it's canned peaches, oddly enough, that truly capture memory and time. That sweet syrup and vibrant yellow pulls us together and gives us comfort. Canned Peaches is produced by Lauren Hines Acosta, Janet Saidi, and me, Nina Mukherjee Firstenow, with production help from Yashamika Wychuk and Alex Cox. The series is written by Lauren Hines Acosta and Janet Saidi. Our editor is Erin Hay. Thanks to Lauren Hines Acosta for co-hosting this episode with me. Canned Peaches is a project of the Missouri News Network at the Missouri School of Journalism, Fox Magazine, Harvest Public Media, and KBIA. Our engagement and outreach team is led by Jessica Von Martin, Cassidy Arena, and Professor Kara Edgerson. Special thanks to Harvest Public Media's Maria Altman, Fox Magazine's Heather Isherwood, and the Missouri School of Journalism's Lee Hills Chair in Free Press Studies, Professor Kathy Kiley. Canned Peaches is produced with support from the Missouri Humanities and the Missouri Humanities Trust Fund. On Canned Peaches, we're exploring how we're all connected through food on our plates. For more episodes, go to kbia.org, and you can see more stories from Canned Peaches at foxmagazine.com. I'm Nina Mukherjee Firstenow. Thanks for listening. See you next time.